Alongside tools, crests are the #1 way to alter your playstyle in Silksong. Crests have different ranges, swing speeds, needle strikes, innate effects, and even different bind mechanics. Today I'd like to compare and contrast how each crest compares to the other, rank them based on their overall use in both platforming and boss encounters. Naturally, some will be overall better than others, but which ones should you avoid and which ones are going to be boss melters moving into Silksong's upcoming DLCs? Break down the pros and cons of each crest and rank them against each other from worst to best. To get the idea, let's jump right into the ranking. Number 7. Reaper Crest, the bottom of the barrel when it comes to your crest options in Silksong. Reaper has the worst swing speed in the game, and swing speed is incredibly important in this game. Remember Quick Slash in the first Hollow Knight? Didn't get to be arguably the best charm in all of Hollow Knight just for boosting your nail DPS alone. Got there because getting more hits in means more DPS, but it also means more soul generated in a short amount of time from all the hits you're landing. This allowed it to be both a DPS booster and a soul generation charm at the same time, an amazing double utility unmatched by any other charm in the game. Swing speed is just as important in Silksong, if not even more important. You want higher swing speed for DPS reasons, tools that activate effects after landing a certain amount of hits like Flint Slate, and also to build that silk meter for silk skills or binds. And you'll need arguably even more of that meter compared to Hollow Knight, since you need half of your entire meter before you can even heal, as compared to Hollow Knight's smaller meter use for a single mask heal. Reaper Crest having a lower swing speed means that it struggles to build up silk outside of its effect, which we'll touch on shortly. Swing speed isn't the only defining factor of a crest though, so let's look at its actual moveset that you're working with here. Swings here have good range, one of the longest available in fact. I really dislike that they alternate between an underhand and overhead swing if you spam the neutral swing though. The underhand swing often just misses more mobile or flying targets and it's kind of useless. The overhand one is much more consistent in actually landing on enemies, and it's a shame that the overhead one isn't just the only option here. The upswing is okay at best. It takes some getting used to, but I really dislike that it doesn't cover anywhere in front of Hornet at all. If an enemy is above and in front of Hornet, which most airborne enemies usually are, you just can't hit them at all without doing like a mid-air turnaround. Super awkward and definitely less than ideal considering that most flying enemies like to stay in a tantalizing range just above and in front of you most of the time. The pogo's pretty decent and it's actually pretty good for some platforming segments. The main issue is it does lower Hornet's hurt box a lot, which can sometimes cause you to be pushed into an enemy or hazard when you otherwise expected to simply bounce off of it, which kind of defeats the entire purpose of a pogo in the first place. But anyways, lastly for this lackluster moveset, the needle art is just atrocious. The absolute worst in the game by far. It only covers from behind Hornet to directly above her, similar to the upswing. Slight correction from editing HASKILL here. It does actually cover from behind Hornet to in front of her, but 90% of the attack spends its time behind or above Hornet, and I still think it's bad. Meaning you're not hitting something that you're directly facing. Can't think of a use case for this unless something is directly behind or above you, and in most cases you probably want to be facing where you're attacking. Okay, so the moves range from mediocre to severely lacking. Can the effect save it at least? Reaper Crest's special effect is that after a successful bind, Hornet enters a sort of enhanced state where hitting enemies spawns little glowing silk orb. Going out of your way to pick up the silk orbs nets you a good amount of your silk bar back, but having to go out of your way to pick up the extra silk is the main problem. Why would you want this convoluted way to build your silk meter back up that can be interrupted if you're hit during your post-bind state, by the way, when you could simply pick up a crest with a better swing speed and have faster silk regeneration rates all the time from a faster rate of hits landed? The effect is fine, it's helpful, and it's definitely a net positive, but it only serves to make a bad crest okay, when ideally you want an effect to make a good crest great. Reaper Crest is definitely not going to be a go-to for toppling pantheons, but hell, people beat Hollow Knight pantheons with all bindings, so I'm sure people will still make this crest work despite its many shortcomings. Number 6. Beast Crest. Beast Crest is interesting. It's certainly got a fun and interesting theme by turning Hornet swings into aggressive claw swipes and even giving her unique voice lines on both her attacks and taunt. Using a bind with Beast Crest equipped does not heal you at all, and instead temporarily puts Hornet into a fury state where her needle attacks deal more damage and also regenerate health upon successful hits. Specifically, fury needle range and speed are increased by 20%, while needle damage is increased by 25%. The max amount of masks you can heal per bind is 3, unless multi-binder is equipped, in which case it goes up to 4. The fury state lasts about 5 seconds and is reduced by 2.35 seconds each time Hornet takes damage, meaning you can get hit in fury state but still have a bit of time left in it. Already doing better than Reaper Crest, which just gets instantly knocked out of its enhanced post-bind state anytime a moss grub so much as tickles Hornet's pinky toe. For bossing, this crest is certainly an amazing option for brute forcing your way through an encounter quickly. The Flea Brew plus Flint Slate combo for even more nail damage and swing speed is especially fun for melting things on this crest, since you're stacking the bonus swing speed and damage from the bind with bonus damage and swing speed from the red tools. But for platforming and exploration, the Beast Crest certainly leaves a lot to be desired. The pogo on this thing is absolutely abysmal, probably the worst in the game. Hornet lunges forward in a spiky ball like a deadly version of Sonic the Hedgehog's homing attack. Only not homing at all, and definitely not deadly, so I don't know why I called it that. The pogo is tricky to land, as if you don't hit the enemy near the start or middle of the animation, your pseudo death ball status just kind of fizzles out at the end and places you in an exposed state right on top of the enemy that you were trying to hit. You also can't just bind back up after defeating a random enemy on Beast Crest, since your bind only heals you if you hit an enemy after. This means if you're low on health, you'll have to risk getting up close and personal with another enemy if you want those masks back. Compared to other crests where you can defeat the enemy and use your silk reserves to prepare for the next encounter, this is certainly a disadvantage. The other thing holding Beast Crest back on the platforming and exploration side is its lack of any built-in blue tool slot. This forces you to play a game of decision paralysis with your one and only blue Vesta Crest slot each time you want to use this crest. Do you use the injector band to make the bind animation to enter your rage form nearly instantaneous? Do you use multi-binder to get more masks healed per rage state, thus making your heals more silk efficient? Do you use reserve binds so you get an extra chance of getting some healing hits in when you're desperate? Let's be honest though, it's injector band most of the time, according to my comments section anyways. And it makes sense, most other crests just use bind to instantly give you health back, but Beast Crest makes you bind and then hit stuff. Removing some of the downtime before actually getting your masks back here is incredibly valuable. Maybe having 2 blue slots on this thing would just make it way too hard to balance against bosses. That unfortunately leaves it lacking in other parts of Silksong's gameplay that are also important. Overall, a really powerful one-on-one crest that struggles to shine elsewhere. Number 5. Witch Crest. From one crest with a unique healing mechanic to another, Witch Crest has the longest range of any crest in the game. So long in fact that it receives the smallest long claw range boost out of all the crests in the game, as it would just be too much at that point. Imagine having more range than Reaper Crest and still having a faster swing speed at the same time. Wait, you don't have to imagine. You can just put on Witch Crest. If I could describe the Witch Crest in a single word, it would be satisfying. The multi-hits and its needle swings are very satisfying to land. And that bind, don't even get me started. To heal on the Witch Crest, you'll need to activate your bind within a certain range in order for Hornet's roots to hit nearby enemies. The bind on its own is 33% faster than Hunter Crest bind to help you land it on enemies more consistently. But even still, if you just miss, then you just don't get any healing. The trade-off for the risk of not getting any healing here is the massive burst of damage that comes from successful root hits. Each root hit can deal 1 needle's worth of damage for a maximum of 3 hits per bind. That's 3 needle hits worth of damage that also heals you up close and personal in an enemy's face of your choosing. The blue tool synergies on this crest are especially fun, and it has the most blue slots to play with when compared to any other crest. Multi-binder gives you an extra root thrash, allowing for 4 potential mass healed per bind, but it also has the downside of increasing the bind's wind-up animation. Injector band can speed up the bind and make it safer to use. This is especially useful on such a risky bind. And my personal favorite, claw mirrors to absolutely nuke any single enemy of your choosing. You're already up close and personal getting a ton of burst damage, why not add even more on top of it just to completely erase the enemy from existence? When the bind works, the bind really works. There is some risk here of using it and missing whatever enemy or enemies you wanted to heal off of, making it not totally safe to use in all scenarios. I found the bind struggled against mobile and nimble enemies like Pinstress for example, but against larger bosses or even average enemies during your platforming and exploration, you'll be alright. Which has a great moveset all around, hitting from super far even without long claw, and I love to use it even if that bind can be a bit awkward. Number 4. Hunter Crest. A jack of all trades, but a master of none. Hunter Crest is an incredibly reliable option for any point of the game, and I wouldn't blame you if you just left this one on 24/7 throughout your time in Silksong. Heck, I had this one on for about 2/3 of my first playthrough. The 2 red, 2 blue, and 2 yellow slots, not even counting the Vesta Crest, allows you to be flexible and adapt for whatever challenge you're facing in that current moment. In terms of moveset, Hunter has an average range and swing speed, so nothing too crazy there. Its unique effect rewards skilled play, granting you tons of extra needle damage for going long periods of time without getting hit. Feels great when you've got that focus meter charged up and you're just obliterating enemy health bars. This is Silksong, and that usually doesn't last me too long personally. In the hands of your hitless speedrunner demons, this crest is an absolute monster, I'm sure. There's no downside to the effect if you just don't get hit, and when maxed out, your needle hits will deal 1.5 times damage. There was a certain broken charm in the original Hollow Knight that had a similar buff that we all deemed as super powerful, and you can get the same effect here without spending a single tool slot if you're just skilled enough. Another one of Hunter Crest's strongest features is actually one that most people complained about when they first gained control of Hornet. The angled pogo. I know a lot of people didn't vibe with the angled pogo when they first started Silksong. It's a bit jarring after years of just swinging directly below you like in the original Hollow Knight, but it offers unique advantages if you're just willing to put in a bit of practice and get used to its feel. Rather than needing to spend extra time in the air from jumping and traveling directly over the enemy's head before attacking like on Reaper or Wanderer Crest, you can simply jump in the air from a safer, short distance in front of your target and allow the pogo to initiate an attack and close the distance on your behalf at the same time. I found the angle especially useful useful in 1v1 duels like Lace 2 and Lost Lace as examples, as the angle allowed for free hits without needing to spend extra time adjusting yourself directly over their head. This feels like a fighting game move you would initiate with in the neutral status, if that makes sense. You can't really go wrong with Hunter Crest since it can adapt to just about any situation, so it doesn't feel outright broken in the same way the upcoming crests are.
Pushanka.
Number 3. Wanderer Crest. You can really call any of these last 3 crests the most overpowered depending on your personal playstyle, and I would believe you. So the ordering of these final 3 isn't too important as they're all broken in a different way, and it really just depends what your personal preference is. That being said, I'm sure you've noticed the arbitrary ranking numbers for each crest on the screen by now, so I'll rank them from highest to average score still. But truly, they're all incredibly effective, and each can be argued for taking the top spot. Wanderer Crest has one of the stubbiest movesets in the entire game, but it makes up for that by having the absolute fastest swing speed in the game. As I've mentioned multiple times already, swing speed is an incredibly important statistic to consider. More hits landed means more damage, and it also means more silk generation. Take the rapid fire strikes of Wanderer Crest and combine it with Cross Stitch's instant negation of any instance of damage, and suddenly it no longer matters if you're right in that boss's face when they launch an attack. Your rapid hits also means you're building your silk back up super quickly, perfect for remaining up close and personal to land even more hits and more cross stitches. This gets even more bonkers when you consider Flea Brew to up your swing speed even more, Flint Slate to boost your DPS, and even more so because it triggers a status effect on 3 successful hits, which are easier to land when you can swing more quickly, and Wanderer Crest special effect. When you have enough silk meter to heal 9 silk strands or more, your needle strikes each have a 2% chance to deal triple damage. If you're spamming cross stitches, you may not always have this effect online, but when those crits hit, oh boy do they hit. You can also boost the odds of the crits occurring from 2% up to a whopping 2.2% if you have the Magnetite dice equipped, but that's besides the point. The most broken thing about this crest is the insane swing speed. You'll kill things faster, get more silk for healing, and have more silk for silk skills like Cross Stitch. Wanderer Crest is the nail go burr build from Hollow Knight Reincarnate, and I'm here for it. Probably my favorite playstyle after Hunter Crest personally. Also, I haven't practiced this too much yet, but if you learn the Sawtooth Circlet combos with this thing, Hornet turns into a walking boss blender. Check out this video by Envy Youngblood when you have a second. Truly insane damage. I'll link their tutorial below.
Yanara.
Number 2, Architect Crest. Architect is a bit of an oddball in my eyes. On the one hand, I love the drill-themed attacks and the multi-hit nature of some of the moves. On the other hand, having to charge up your dash attack means that you're probably never going to hit that boss you were planning to hit it with anyways. I tried winding up some dash attacks on Lace 2, and she just somersaulted somewhere else completely by the time I had a decent charge every time. The Pogo I didn't like at first either for having a similar wind-up mechanic, but I've since changed my mind a bit as the wind-up mid-air can actually be a bit of a boon by allowing you to stall for time and avoid certain attacks if you misread the enemy. So pros and cons on that moveset really. It is also worth mentioning that Architect Crest's Needle Strike is one of the absolute best in the game, covers a very large area in front of Hornet and does a ton of burst damage. But the real crazy thing about Architect Crest is the moveset almost doesn't even matter. Architect Crest can play its own game. 3 red slots and 1 blue slot means you can equip 3 kill everything buttons, make them even more deadly with the Polyp Pouch, keep your distance, and watch everything melt. Oh, were those 3 red slots worth of damage somehow not enough? Worry not, they gave Architect Crest the unique craft bind that lets you refill your entire red capacity on the go, as long as you have the shell shards for it. Hornet can truly become the Moon Knight meme of random bullshit go and kill everything from a safe distance with this crest. You don't need to charge some meter during the fight with successful needle hits like Silk skill builds do. You just need enough currency before the fight even starts and you're set. Architect Crest is like if spells in the original Hollow Knight were Shaman Stone boosted and only needed some Geo mid-fight to be refunded. It can truly break the game and does not need to abide by the same rules as any other crest in the game due to just how powerful its slots and effects are in combination with each other. It almost feels cheesy to use at times, but it's a single player game and everything is fair game here. Number 1, Shaman Crest. Shaman Crest is exceptionally well-rounded and lends itself well to a safe, patient, and deadly playstyle. Shaman Crest features fantastic range with only a small swing speed reduction. The pogo is decent and that needle art is insane. It goes so far and it's so tall. It's the longest reaching needle strike and makes for a great option for safely building up that silk from a distance so you can unleash your deadly silk skill some more. This pairs exceptionally well with the pin badge to more quickly charge up the needle strike and fire off a bunch of safe long-reaching hits. Shaman Crest is essentially a combination of Shaman Stone and Grubberfly's Elegy into a playstyle. All silk skills are boosted by 40% when using Shaman Crest, and this even stacks with Volt Filament for a whopping 65% base damage increase to all silk skill damage. Not even counting the little electric tick damage added on by Volt Filament, by the way. Combining this with Weave Light and maxed out silk hearts means you can cast a silk skill without even hitting an enemy once, as long as you're patient enough. This is also the only crest that lets you equip multiple silk skills depending on your needs. Cross Stitch is self-explanatory for instant counters to get out of sticky situations from enemies that close the distance on you. Dreadstorm is a great AoE option. and then whatever you want for your final DPS option here. One downside you really have to worry about when using Shaman Crest is the lack of any red and yellow tool slots, which means no red tools at all, and your yellow tool is limited to your one Vesta Crest slot. You won't really miss the red tool slot unless you really wanted it for something like Flea Brew or Plasmium File as examples, and your yellow slot is obviously just going to be Magnetite Dice here again anyway, so you're not missing too much. Bind is tricky though. Shaman Stone is the only crest that cannot initiate and finish a bind in the air, as using a bind midair shoots you towards the floor and only finishes the bind sometime after landing. This can be a cool and stylish way to dodge enemy attacks, but it can also just be a detriment against enemies where it's normally safest to heal midair. You can obviously just adjust your playstyle to account for the drop, and Shaman's overall safer playstyle can mean you're just getting hit less and therefore need to heal less anyways, but overall I do see this as a net negative for the crest, a small flaw in an otherwise amazing crest option. And that's the ranking. On paper, any of the last 3 crests can definitely be the quote-unquote best crest depending on your preference. Pick Wanderer Crest if you want a hyper-aggressive playstyle that revolves around the needle. Pick Architect Crest if you want a super safe option that revolves around spamming as many gadgets as possible. Or pick Shaman Crest if you're patient and want to obliterate things with boosted silk skills. All great options that excel at one particular part of Hornet's kit. When I first started writing this, I thought Shaman was my favorite of the 3 broken crests, but now I think it's Wanderer for its aggressive playstyle and ability to frequently mitigate its weaknesses with regular cross stitches. But in the end, I think that the best crest is ultimately the one that you play the best with, as this is a single player game where what feels best to you is what you should use. It does look like another crest is coming in the upcoming Silksong Sea of Sorrow DLC from what we can tell. Let me know what you guys think its abilities could be that set it apart from what we already have in the game currently. It'll be fun to compare how any new crests compare to the base game ones down the line. Until then, have a great day, and I'll see you on the road ahead.